Today we're talking about Bungie and specifically Destiny 2 and the end of Destiny 2. What's up with Bungie these days? This is the 702 Gaming podcast you're listening to. This is episode 33. I'm your host, Jacob. And right now we have the original podcast member, Josh. How are you doing? It's been years, man.
Yeah, it's been awesome. Coming back here, I'm excited to kind of dive into this, especially one of my favorite things to talk about.
Yeah, I know. I had to get you back for that because you're a Destiny guy through and through. But I think our last podcast together was probably 4 years ago, something like that.
It could be, it could be. I would hate to see and look at the actual date, but we're just gonna say it's been a while, and good to be back.
It's good
Phil,
to have you.
yeah.
We were just talking about how, like, I think the last time we podcasted, your son was a little tyke, and now he's driving. So
Yeah, yeah, he just got his permit. So like things time just forever moving. You can't stop that. That's one of those constants, right? Like
yeah, it's
yeah,
crazy.
and getting into this, right, it was like I thought time was constant and destiny was constant. And then now here we are kind of
Yeah.
jumping into this and the sad news of the demise of Bungie potentially. So
Yeah, that actually hurts me hearing you say that because I remember when the original Destiny was announced by Bungie as their next project after Halo, they really announced it as sort of a forever game or just a game that could continue on and on, sort of like Star Wars, like so in depth, and they would just keep it going. They did obviously have a sequel to it, but sadly that sequel just came to an end. How long ago did that end?
so the live service is I get it's hard to like say that it's officially done because there is a small piece left and they are going to do some updating and some patching here and there,
Okay.
but they are not doing the week to week or anything like that. So that was that the 9th of last month? So it's been just about a month since the Moment of Triumphs dropped, and they said this is it. There will be no more updates to this live service client, if you will. So they're not doing that anymore. We heard of the layoffs, and we can kind of we'll dive into that as we go deeper into this. But yeah, so about a month ago, it was just one big dump, right? No,
Yeah,
no more.
was this so I didn't play I haven't played it lately, so, you've been getting back into it?
Yes, I
Or you
mean,
have?
I was gone for 2 years. Like,
Okay,
honestly, yeah, and
wow,
the news of it co the news of the release, and then what they were gonna do with basically dumping everything that they have already developed. And they were
okay.
just like the studio got to a hard stop, and you know how studios work, they're, years and months and months out of live service releases or season passes or models that they're using. So they were just like, "Well, we'll cut this off and we're just gonna dump it all." I think that was the 9th of last month. And then there you go. And so we had all that news come back, and then there was a new emblem that came out that was like the old light emblem. And so it made me, because it was only like the last DLC rotation, about a 12 to 14 months, I say, I didn't play,
Mhm.
unfortunately, because it was just the model was burning me out and the way it was running. I just logged in like 2 weeks before so I can get the emblem. There was already, creators on the side making their own way of figuring out in the API to figure out if you played enough or did you play during these
Oh,
DLCs. Yeah, so that was all
oh,
over Reddit and that came up, and so I just went on there. I was like, oh, I just didn't play this last major DLC release. And really they got down to a DLC every 16 to 18 months anyway.
okay, yeah,
It was really, in my biggest opinion, was the seasonal model rollout just fried everybody. If you're not familiar with it, basically they wanted to like continue the story and like have this long drawn out storyline across the year, and they did that with like the seasonal model and the season pass. Well, there was very small narrative missions put into that, and, they brought different, like, quirks to it of, like, different mission types or kind of a different game mode, which was okay, but ultimately, you would just log in on, like, the Tuesday reset, you would do it, play an hour, maybe 2, you're done, and then you're capped, and then you had to wait for the next week for it to advance. And so the drip feeding of their seasonal model was very, very taxing, and I think it's really tough. Coming from our era, right? And that's another thing that, like, we could get into at length now, especially with Sony's other decisions that they're making. You got your disc, the full game was on there, you got to play as much as you want, all the content was there. And
Yeah, yeah.
so, just logging on week to week to play 1 hour content was just it just really drove your hours down and the reasons to play down. The game has a ton of repeatability, but when you're promoting new content and you're, like, kinda serving it up like, "Hey, we're changing this constantly," and then it's not really much. Like, it's not like well, it's like hors d'oeuvre bites. We're not really getting the full meal, you know?
Mm,
And so it was just like we are just like nibbling away, and it's like, "Okay." Finally, you're like, "I'm hungry for more," and, you know, most
you're
of the
never fully satisfied, you're
it
just kinda drip fed those little
yeah,
snacks. Yeah,
yes. So what do? We found
yeah.
other stuff to play.
Yeah, that's true. Especially when you feel forced to come back on a timed thing, like weekly thing. You get done too quick, and then it's okay. Well, now there's no reason to really play unless I'm just replaying the same dungeon over and over with no real point, right? Um,
Yeah,
I could see that.
yeah, and, like, you get into the loop, like, there's no denying Destiny's, like, the way it feels to play the game. It's gunplay, it's immersion, everything like that. There's, like, in my opinion, Call of Duty is the only other game for FPS that can ever feel that way and that immersive. Destiny always gets the notch for me because of the space magic, the abilities, the build crafting that they go into with the MMO and the carrot chasing that goes along with it. So when they were doing these drip feeds and, like, you couldn't really chase anything. It didn't
Hmm.
really feel like that. It was like you were just, like, kinda completing a checkbox, right? And then it was like, "Oh, well, let me go do the same recycled content that has never been refreshed." There's never been any additions or additives to that. So that was it was really hard on the community, and I think it was like that. It was like burned out in the sense of, well, it's not really new, and furthermore, that seasonal model felt very, like, just fairly like, it was like a new paint job every season.
Mm,
It wasn't really necessarily new content. They did change up some of the gameplay loops because it would be a different type of activity, whether it be a 3-person or a 6-person activity for you to go do in the world. It was like that was it. Like, they kinda introduced that part of it, but it was just like, "Okay, so we just go to the same planet, and now we're, like, dunking orbs instead of dunking motes." It was like it got really recycled feel and was like, "No, there's so much more you can do with it, and so much more that they could have been building off of," because it was always labeled MMORPG. Or I think they put action in there at some point, or Luke Smith did. He was like, "It's a action MMORPG," right? So,
right.
it just it got bland. It was just kinda you can't keep repainting the same
Yeah.
gun and give it away and be like, "Oh, it's
Yeah.
new." You're
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
you're like, no, it's not new. It's the same archetype. It's the same rate of fire. It's just a different paint job."
Yeah, I think the new content that they were coming out with that did excite me, and I wasn't as into Destiny as you were by any means, but I definitely played through 1 and two's main campaign, and then a lot of the side content. I haven't played Destiny 2 a lot for same, like, couple years, haven't played the last few major DLCs, but or expansions. but that is what the things that did excite me was the storyline, expanding out, the new villains that they would show off. That's the kinda stuff I would wanna see if I was to continue playing.
The Yeah, the storyline, the storytelling, the lore, right, and the universe that they've created, I mean, it's that is really, really awesome. There's not a lot. I'm not gonna say Destiny is the only game that does that because that's way, way untrue, but one of the best at it. And they have held maybe the rest of the gaming community to the standard of doing it that way, whether it was the cutscenes or the depth of lore and doing all that. It's like, they understood early on, um, that you can't, or you don't have to just do cutscenes for story. And like, so they put lore on guns. They put lore like in a normal strike that's like kind of snuck in there and doing that. And it created this whole other section or sub community that played it. There's a lot of content creators that literally made a living interpreting and telling the story for kind of knuckleheads like me that I'm just like, I don't speak Latin. What did that mean? Right. So, um, it- but there's just like, there's just something about that aspect. And going back to how the seasonal model kind of failed, I don't think it was like on paper a terrible idea because they were like, hey, the story's going to play out, throughout the year. You're not just going to get those 12 to 15 story missions with the DLC. We're going to be able to continue the story as a live service game all year round. So if you're like, oh, hey, like, imagine on paper, it sounds good. It's like, imagine I'm going to get a different episode of my favorite show every week. You're like, heck
And
yeah.
it's yeah, it sounds great, like, you
Yeah.
live in this world, and you're gonna see it play out live
Yeah.
while you're living in this world, but what are we all supposed to do? Just sit around at the hub world and just wait?
It's essentially what it was. Like, it's funny
Yeah.
you say that because like it was like seasonal hubs that you would go to.
Oh,
Right, and then it's like usually tiers of some type of, like, knockout box, if you will, of, like, different perks for that season to make that gameplay loop easier and better and, like, how to master that gameplay loop, but you would go back every week, you would get the new story snippet, if you will, do recycle the mission, the gameplay loop, get the new thing and then you're kind of done. Like you
yeah,
can, it has the random rolls and stuff if you're like going after god rolls and things like that for your best in slots and such, but I mean, it's not like it takes forever, you know.
yeah,
It there's a lot to be said about that. Like we can go off on 6 million tangents about how like the sunsetting happened and then they took away people's like grind and things like that. But that seems like a Sony thing now. Like that was like, hey, I know you paid for that content, but we're just gonna go ahead and
yeah,
take that away from you. No big deal. Um uh but like they also had a problem with like everybody got the thing.
okay,
Right.
yeah. So it
Like
didn't feel special
right,
when everyone's running around with the same
right.
thing?
Yeah.
Mm,
Another game that like I found myself getting into big time outside of Destiny was RuneScape. So I don't know how much you've played RuneScape
okay.
or know RuneScape, but
Yeah,
that game is like I am 15 years late to that party. That game's been out for
okay,
20
okay.
years, right?
So it is the game I was thinking. I was
My
thinking, "There's a
God,
new
yes.
game?"
No, it's not new at all. But it has that depth in that. And I it's hard to say. I mean, I guess I compare them a little bit because Destiny has been out for so long
Mhm,
and it can have that depth. But RuneScape is like, I don't care. This is really hard to get. It's supposed to be. It's supposed to be
right.
rewarding. So, in certain eras of Destiny, having like, well, everybody gets the God roll and everybody gets this, and it was like some things were just a little too given. And there's a couple other videos and stuff. Another creators I watched was like, it makes a lot of sense when they start talking about it that way. If I go do, say, the dungeon and it has the new meta auto rifle, for whatever reason,
Uh-huh.
and all I do is have to complete it and get it. What's the replayability? Where's the carrot to chase? Like
Yeah.
as a gaming community, you have to know that like we want to be excited about getting a thing, so that has to come with a little bit of rarity. That
Right.
you
So
can't be a
RuneScape,
one
I'm
for one.
assuming, does kinda like what World of Warcraft did, because I used to play that a lot,
Okay, there you
especially when it
go.
first came out, where
Yeah.
you would do a dungeon, and if you get this certain boss, you have a 1% chance of this weapon dropping or this hood dropping or whatever, right? And so when you would see people out in the world with that, you're just like, "Oh, man, I've been working really hard to try and get that, but he has it," right?
Yeah.
Is that kind of what you're talking about?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. You know, I don't know if there's a perfect balance for that. Talking like with using the RuneScape model. There's like 1 in 10,000 drop rates on some things. That is like, yeah, it's like
Yeah.
they're crazy. Like if anybody's interested in RuneScape and like you love to just chase carrots that are impossible to get,
That's the one.
you can look on just the wiki page for RuneScape. Already is amazing, by the way. That's one of the best wiki pages out there for a game. They have their drop rates for everything, right? And if you want to go do a certain piece of content and you look on there and you're like, it's you're like, that's 1 in 1,500. That hurts. But there is some stuff on there that is literally 6 to 7 figure drop rates.
Wow.
Put that, yeah, put that
Yeah.
on your
Uh-huh.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah, calculate that
yeah,
out.
that one hurts a little bit. You're like, so, and then with that game though, I think that's amazing. And there's I've like, if anybody listening to this fact checks this, you can, but I believe there is still to this date nobody has everything in the game. Not one
Okay.
not one account has everything in the game, because there's different like random clue scroll drops, and you do like this little treasure hunt thing, and then it opens that chest, and that chest is super RNG with a bunch of different items, and those items, there could be a like, some of these drop rates are crazy. They like, I wish I was exaggerating, like 1 in 300,000. Like you're like, they're so rare, you're not going to get them.
It
Um,
does make it special, though, I like that.
yeah. So bringing that back to the Destiny world, I know specifically early in D2, when they were just like the Leviathan raid, and then they had some of the other like raid layers, they called them. Um, so they actually brought this boss back, but this boss would drop this specific exotic grenade launcher called Anarchy. It was very overpowered at the time, very meta. Everybody wanted it, but the drop rate sucked. It was very hard to get. So like almost every other day or every night, I'm in there, we're running with the clan, trying to get it. I was like the last one to get it after a month. And we're running it multiple times, spamming the boss, doing the runs. And it wasn't like this raid layer, once you get it down, it wasn't like a crazy long adventure. Like, it wasn't like a 3-hour raid. You could do the raid layers in about an hour and 15 probably. I even did it with another clan. We sped run it in like 7 minutes, which was awesome. That was a great experience. But
Whoa.
even that kind of like got taken out of the game, right? Because they removed that content on top of it.
Hmm.
But going back to the point a little bit, was like, when I finally got that drop, like I might have like took my headset off and like ran around the loft a second, right? Like I'm excited. I was like, yes, finally, right? And you get to you get somebody else through it and be like, hey, have you ever ran this before? This is like going back a little further of like Xbox LFG and stuff, and you're just trying to fill the raid team and get them in, and because you want the gun or whatever, and you come in and they're like, oh, I never run it before, and I would Sherpa or teach the raids a lot, just to anybody that, well, I was very, very community focused that way, and they would always get it their first time, and I was so like, it was like, I was like, yeah, I'm excited for you, man, good job. I'm like, but I'm dying inside a little bit. But I tell you
Yeah.
what, but that just made me want to do it more. There's something about that it makes you want to do it more. And plenty of other clanmates will be like, they'll get what they want and then they're done. They're like, I get the gun I wanted. And then I'm like, hey, do you wanna run this again? I needed this still. This guy needs it. That guy, they're like, oh no, I'm good. All of a sudden they're gone, right? So, I understand to a point. Not everybody's gonna be so community focused as I am and try to help out a lot, but that's kind of what it breeds is like, oh, they get the thing and you're kind of done with it, right? Like
Yeah.
there's no real reason for repeatability. You go on to the next thing, which makes sense. I mean, eventually we have to advance, but again,
That's super cool how you were doing that. So let me ask you, from what I read, it sounds like the way they wrapped up Destiny 2, because it was a live service, and you can speak to this because you've been playing it lately, is do you feel like they did a good job of wrapping up a live service to kind of let it be out there for as long as they're going to keep the servers up or whatever? Like if I had never played Destiny 2, would I still enjoy buying it and playing through all of its content the way they kind of wrapped everything up?
yeah, I honestly, this is the best version the game has ever seen, which is like it's a blast, but the diehard I've been playing it for so long also kind of infuriates me.
It's a little bittersweet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's super bittersweet. And
Yeah.
and it's infuriating because we're like, the whole time you could have done this. Like, so the
Instead of that live service sort of like dragging you along, they could have just made a great game.
yeah, we're like, you've had this. This was there. This because we know and we like good hardcore gamers are like, we're patient, right? Like get GTA, get it correct, right? Get it correct. It's fine because I know Rockstar is gonna kill it with that, right? It's
Right.
it's going to
Right.
be amazing. So if it's whatever you got to do, make it right. And I'm good with that. But what I don't like is that it was a clear picture of it being drip fed after really good development. So it was done. It was fairly polished.
Yeah.
I can live with like part of us being like, the days of having like Q&A in studios now, like us the
Mhm.
gamers are now more Q&A like because
Right.
they can just patch the game and fix it if there's a game bug or something game breaking or broken. Like that's just the era we're
Especially
living
with
out.
game previews and
Yeah,
things like that now.
we can live with that, but I'm like, but this whole time, I'm like, you like Sparrow racing. So you played it a little bit, you hop on your Sparrow. It's a little like Star Wars speeder type thing. Um, so that was like a D1 thing, and like they kind of like played with the comeback, and then it like disappeared. And we're like, that is such a cool like cool down event and so much repeatability because you don't really get a ton from it. But like usually at the end of the night, a lot of like the guys I play with in the clan, we're like, okay, we're kind of grinded out some hard content, doing all that. Everybody's like, all right, one Sparrow race. And it's just a blast because everybody's crashing into each other, going through the gates, doing the whole thing. And the community's been asking forever, for years. And then boom, it comes back right now. They've been asking for like gear set bonuses. Boom, comes in now. Right? Like tiered weapons and tiered things like this, and like having a complete overhaul or refresh for all of the strikes. So
Yeah.
it's crazy that they're like, "Hey, peace out. This is it." But what they dumped on us was like literally 3 DLCs worth of like almost content outside of raids and dungeons and maybe and story, but like the content and the depth in the game because there was like I think
They were sitting on it.
yeah. And there was they were gonna like probably do these in waves of like they released a whole new gear system. So there's like a 2-piece set and a 4-piece set. And with the bonuses for that, But they were probably going to do it like, oh, we're going to drop the one for strikes, we're going to drop the ones for Crucible, we're going to, or the PvP aspect, and all those different ones have their separate game modes or like different roads they can go down, and then the dungeons, and then the raids, and they reprised all of it. There
Yeah.
is
Okay.
there is so much to do right now. There is literally build crafting videos flying up on the daily still, and it's been out for a month. There's one of my favorite content creators for the game. He's like, there is probably a year's worth of content creation for YouTube and all that right now. And I'm like, this is what Destiny used to be, when they would just sit there and bake it and then have the yearly huge drop and then like go play it. Yeah, if you're going to be a freaking nerd and like just grind it out that much, cool, you got through the content, but now you can go for the god rolls, and now you can just be like the tippity top or get the completionist stuff and be, get all the badges and all the cool things. And
Do you blame Bungie for that, or do you blame Sony? Because I would kind of think that the more higher ups, the ones that are thinking more about money, are coming to Bungie saying, "We know you have this. You need to bring it out in waves. Don't just bring it out. We see more money when things."
I see what you're doing. You try to get me angry, and it might work, but
You are a little green
okay,
right now.
all
You're
right, all
turning
right, all
green.
right, all right, all right. So I know, it's not a dev option. Like there's no way you convince me and say that the developer was like, yeah, this would be great to put in the game and have our players do it and like test it and see if we like it. And then, they have 4 or 5 ideas that like feed off of that one and kind of evolve it and make the game, better and better and better. There's somebody at some level. Now, I'm not saying it's the boardroom level necessarily.
Right.
Like I can't sit here and say I know exactly what level that happens at, but there's some chain, there's some link in that chain is like, yeah, but why don't we just give them a piece of this and they'll be hungry, and then we can get another $10 for that next piece. So they just, they're chopping up that pie. It
Yeah.
was like, oh, why? They're like, ooh, yeah, that's great. You can sell them $10 for that one pie. They're like, or we could cut it into 8 slices for $10 a piece. Hear me out. Right. And then,
It's like the guy at McDonald's that figured out you could charge 25 cents for the dipping sauces.
yeah.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
worked
It
out real
was like $1
well.
billion idea, wasn't that? That was like stupid, crazy like that. It was like, oh, if you want an extra run, you get the first one's free. And that's the
Yeah.
thing. It's like, oh, you get the first one's free. Like you can do this mission and kind of get the thing. But if you want the
Right.
best thing, you got to pay for it. So, yeah, I don't think it was a development problem. They had their issues. I don't want to like talk too much about something I don't really know about, that I wasn't really there. A lot of that stuff becomes very tight-lipped, and I understand from like dev standpoint, like they can't, even the ones that like that just got laid off, like the massive layoff that happened. Like it's really tough for them. Like it's not a great thing to just start smashing your previous employer, because you never know if they can be your next employer or somewhere down the road. So I get like they can't just like do a bunch of this finger pointing internally or
Yeah.
wherever they came from. And so it'll be hard for us to really know, but we know that somewhere in that chain,
Sure.
somebody
For
was
sure.
like, why make $1 when we can make $100? Like if you ever
Yeah.
watch some Shark Tank episodes, they're like that. They're like that. They're like, why are you selling this only for like $5? It was like, you could sell that for $25 and people
Yeah.
buy it.
They're like, but we're making great money.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're
but you can
making
make
great
more.
money, and we made the product for this and that. And they're just like, yeah, it is definitely becomes part of that. It's hard to say greed, but it's capitalization.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's how we roll. I mean, we're trying to. I mean,
We're living
it's
in that world.
yeah, like that's. Oh,
Well,
it's so
let me read
frustrating.
about speaking of the layoffs. I just want to read a little thing from GeekWire. It said, um, Bungie said that Destiny 2 fell short of expectations these past several years, and that with future projects still in early incubation, we unfortunately could not continue operating at our previous size. So they ended up, when Sony, before all the cuts, and this is over years, they had 1,400 employees. I think they're about down to half of that now.
Yeah. Yep. They even again, it's super hard to go or have an opinion about the internals and those talks and those decisions. We can only make our opinions on what we know. Marathon flopped.
Yeah.
Okay, so when we're saying that timeline of like, call it 2 years ago, saying, oh, it's underperformed for the last 2 years. When did Sony came in, that whole acquisition, and like I get it, Bungie was hurting. Mm, is it Pete Parsons overvalued, and like he got away with his bag, if you will.
I feel like when they first bought them, they did good for a little while, but that might have been just residual from the planned stuff before.
Yep,
And then once that ran out, maybe is when it started drying up.
yep. And well, but then they were like, they really put a lot of eggs in Marathon's basket,
Mm,
right? And I think they overextended that, and since it's still Bungie as a studio, they took like 400 of that number you said. They took like 400 of that staff off of Destiny and put them on Marathon. And I'm not gonna like be like, well, I told you so, but I had a
but
good
you did.
well, no, but I had a good feeling of like I just didn't like that.
Yeah.
I was like, why
Right.
not?
Yeah.
You're developing another game. Why not grow that team? Why are we stealing resources from another game and doing that? So then now here we are 2 years later, and they're like, well, it fell short of expectations. Well, come on, man. Like,
Yeah.
what if
You,
Rockstar in this situation? What if Rockstar was like halfway through GTA, right, coming out, and they were like, we're gonna take half the dev team and we're gonna go work on our next, like we're gonna go do Red Dead.
good point. And then they're going to say, man, uh, you know, GTA 5 has really been drying up. Yeah, you took half the staff and put it on this other game because you heard extraction shooters are a hit. There was 2 hit extraction shooters. We might as well make one.
It just it's super unfortunate. Somebody convinced them that that was going to be the thing, and somebody was sold it. Maybe not just one person, but like a team, some team, or
Yeah,
it could
probably
be
analysts, probably.
it could be one person or some team or somebody like you know. And I always like oddly enough, a lot of accountants do make a lot of decisions because
Yeah.
they're like they crunch numbers and they're like, well, this guy over here is doing this and making this much, and so the guy in the suit is like, heck yeah, I want that
Yep.
much. I want a
I
new
want that
yacht.
too.
Yeah, I want that. I want that new yacht. But like it just makes sense. I was like, you can't like I just don't know how we've seen it in the real world in our workforce and our labor force. And if
Right.
you if
Right.
you go somewhere and they're like, hey, sorry, we're short staffed, compared to when like you were there before and they weren't short staffed, you're like, dang, it's a different experience. So there's just nothing you can do. And then you're already on a drip feed model, already like not doing enough. You're already not listening to the community,
Yeah.
right? And then
This kind
so
of what
there you go.
this kind of what makes me sad is that the typical game development model is you have this team, they make a game, it comes out, they make a bunch of money off of that game where they had to invest previously because they weren't making money off of it yet, right? They
Mhm.
make their money, and while they made that money, they're developing the next one, and it goes into a cycle. I know that this was a live service game, but what I really would have liked to seen instead of them laying off all these people is wrap Destiny 2 up into this nice finishing package that it is now, a really great game, and it was a great game for years. So, like, overall, it shouldn't be looked at as a failure, it should be looked at as a huge success. It was even a step above, Destiny 1. take those people, instead of laying them off, you just put them on Destiny 3. You tell them, "Well, you're making Destiny 3 and just start it." It's gonna take 5, 6 years to come out with that game, but guess what? In 5 or 6 years, all those Destiny players and all the new players are gonna want another Destiny by then.
Yeah. Yeah, for
That's
sure.
what I wish had happened.
Yep.
Um, have you played Marathon?
Didn't touch it. Won't
Not
touch
even with
it.
a
No,
10-foot pole?
no,
No?
I don't. I'm not my forte to begin with. Um, I think it. You know, I just be brutally honest. In my opinion, I think it looks like trash. I
Ooh,
like. I yeah.
yeah.
I hate the art style and everything that they were looking at to do. I was like, why are we doing this? And that could just be super bitterness,
Yeah,
or
yeah, I feel a little hatred in your voice right there.
yeah,
I
yeah,
hear
and
it.
that could be just super bitterness because they pulled from
Yeah,
Destiny so hard, and they were just
right.
like, I was like, because that was around the time, I want to say, again, don't crucify me if you guys know this for real or the actual dates, but it was like a year and a half prior when they had just moved studios and made that huge new building and then had all that. Destiny paid for that.
Yeah,
Like
for sure.
it was like, and then it just, you're robbing Peter to try to pay Paul, but like
And you're letting this game that people liked kind of fizzle because you're working on something else that you think is gonna make you a ton of
100%.
money, and then it finally comes out and it flops
It all crashed.
hard. So I have played Arc Raiders a bit. I own it and I've played it with some friends with groups. I've played it singles, doubles, trios. It's a cool game and everything. I just realized that I'm not really an extraction shooter person. I have a little bit of OCD, so I don't like bringing in all my best equipment just to lose it.
Yeah,
So I tend to hoard it
yeah,
into my bank and I keep going out there with lame guns and stuff. I'll try and, use the good stuff, or I'll take it from other people and use it, and it's fun. I really like the graphics and everything in Arc Raiders and the design and everything, but it just wasn't for me. Marathon comes out, and I love Halo, I love Destiny, I knew the gunplay was gonna be on
yeah.
point, and so, the art style intrigued me. I wouldn't say I hate it or love it. It intrigued me. So me and a buddy got on there and we played, for a weekend. They did a trial or a free
Yep,
weekend.
yep,
So we got on there. I couldn't, pull the trigger on buying it. I have some friends that wanted me to buy it, and I kept thinking about it, and finally a free weekend came out, so I played it, and it just really solidified that I do not like extraction shooters.
yeah,
Um, it just yeah, it's just the game type, the game mode. I just don't like it. I actually did like a lot of the visuals in Marathon. Really loved the sound design. Has really cool, like electronic, futuristic sound effects and music and everything while you're going. I like the load screens but I do agree with a lot of people. The UI is a mess. It's really hard to look at. It's hard to tell what you're looking at. It's kind of pretty, but you don't really know what you're looking at for a while. It takes you a long time to get used to it, to where in a game where you're trying to pick things up and decide what you need to drop and what you need to pick up, that makes it really difficult. Um, yeah, so to me, it's no wonder it flopped, but I'm kind of surprised it flopped, to be honest, because coming from Bungie, if you're an extraction shooter fan, I don't see how Marathon doesn't appeal to you, because it's a really sort of polished extraction shooter and it's first person rather than third, um, like Arc Raiders.
yeah. I would, I don't know if you feel like it's polished, because I would have guessed that it's probably pretty rushed, right? Because it
Mm,
was like, it was a pretty quick incubation, right? For that type of game, uh, but again, it was really easy because still Bungie, the studio that has some of the best FPS gunplay and connection and immersion that's out there. So I have other friends that die hard Destiny, and they played a little bit, and they're like, yeah, it's pretty cool, but it just doesn't have that sustainability
Mm,
of the extraction shooter, right? Like it doesn't have the depth to hold on to players long term. Yes, I guess it's kind of technically a live service too. We're supposed to be. It's kind of hard pressed not to have more of live service model nowadays because people just get bored.
yeah.
But I there's probably 3 indie extraction shooters made by frickin' 6 guys in a garage that are better than it. You know,
Yeah.
yeah,
I could see that.
like
Yeah.
with the
Way less overhead and
I don't want this to become that indie game chat because we could like I've played some of the best games ever with like really small, less than 50 people studio. And I guess that would be like, where do we call that indie? I think it's somewhere in there, like 50 or less people working on it. Like
yeah.
that's pretty indie right now. When you're talking about Bungie that was at over 1,000 employees, you know,
Yeah.
working on a game.
Yeah,
So
even after half of their team getting laid off, they're still a big studio.
yes.
They had
So
that many people, they're still big.
yeah, yeah. So here's where hopium or copium kind of comes in. Um, they did not lay off some of their main narrative uh devs or directors, if you will, like the main storytellers and things like that. And then to be fair, like they did have to let go people on the marathon side. People on the marathon side did leave as well. Like Sony's kind of cleaning house for Bungie overall. And I don't know. I mean, I'm just like crossing my fingers that if like they're gonna start really thinking about closing down servers, that it has to be marathon first, and they're just like bail on it. Um because I was just looking this up right now on the Steam chart alone, and we know Destiny is like has a huge Xbox and PlayStation following too. This is just they're number 11 on Steam. Destiny is right now. Like they're not the
Destiny is.
Destiny's
Oh,
number
what's
11 on
Marathon?
it's not on the 100 list.
Wow.
So they're not
Whoa.
they're and then you would have to look up. There's another way to look it up. I won't do that on the side right
That's a
now, but
good
I
indication, though, that people want more Destiny,
yeah, I mean look,
less Marathon.
Valheim's at 68.
Yeah.
Valheim
Yeah.
was made by like 10 people
Yeah.
and still going. Like, look at that. So, like, it's. I think it was just overall just an unfortunate decision. I get why maybe they were trying to dip their toe into that genre. Um, I think it's just we all know. I mean, time stood the tail, so to
Yeah.
speak, of like they definitely went about it wrong. And it's easy for us to sit here now, 2 years later, and be like, "Yeah, idiots, you shouldn't have done that." But I mean, to be fair, like I was pretty vocal earlier. I was like, I don't like this. What? Why not just like if you were doing an internal thing and be like, "Hey, we're doing this. Like, who wants to come over?" Like they're like they
Forcing.
moved.
Yeah.
They like I see like this is just my head. I see it like pods, right? In such a because Bungie was so big, so I see like sections and pods of like the narrative team and like the art team and all this. They were just like and moved it over to Marathon. They were just like boom, moved on. I don't think those 400 people or whatever that moved over at the time to Marathon, that wasn't a choice.
Yeah.
They were like, "Do you want to keep working for Bungie? You're gonna go work on this next incubation project," which was Marathon, right?
And you could see that in the development of Marathon. I mean, there was like stolen assets offline, and it was kind of a mess of a development. Like you said, it seemed rushed. They just moved people over, forced them to do this thing. Uh, wasn't maybe totally a labor of love from Bungie,
Yeah. No,
you know?
that's what a great what a yeah. I like that. I like that you said that like that because you clearly it wasn't. Clearly it wasn't. And I kind of going touching back on I guess the last several years now of like the indie game development of like those are labor of loves and they're coming through big time. These are $10, $20 games with small development teams like and they're just like, even if they were like, "Hey, we're only going to bring over like 100 and we're going
Mhm.
to start this." And then it stayed in beta. Like every other like indie early development is staying in beta for years and years. Like you have Like Valheim is just coming into
It's
1.0.
just, and I'm gonna be buying it.
Dude, I am
I've been
telling you,
waiting
dude. So just come
years.
out to like Enshrouded is just going to
Uh-huh.
1.0. You have all these other things that like that are just going this way. Windrose is another one. Anybody listen there, Windrose, that is one of the coolest new like indie games out there, if you will. Super polished, QOL, like everything you want. It looked like you were like everything you want on a video game, or these like survival type based games when you're playing them and base building. You're like, you get it. It's really cool in a pirate thing and ship
Oh,
battles. It's
yeah.
yeah, look that
Right
one
on.
up. That'll
All right.
we'll curb
Windrose.
that from another. Yeah, Windrose. That was a good one. So but again, that just tells me if you listen, right, we'll tell you what we want. It's really not that difficult. And I think for the most part, devs know. Devs know. They're handcuffed. I think, you're a dev, or I see it like that. I go to my cubicle, I log in, I have the email from the director, the team director. I I have to do this, you know, seasonal model build out. I have to do this because this was the decision passed down for me to code, for me to do the art for me to do it. It I think a lot of maybe that's why the indie games seem so good off rip, is because the developers are like the engineers and storytellers and creativity at the same time. They wear all the hats, and it's like, I don't know where we broke up all the hats to do that, and necessarily, um, but now it's just like, Bungie maybe just turned into 1,000 coders and
Yeah.
four people calling all the shots. I don't, again, I don't know. I'm just making like random assumptions and out of
Well,
anger.
okay, so before we go, Josh, what would you shoot out into the universe as your dream for Bungie's future?
Okay. I would love for the rumors, right? And these are obviously just rumors. I would love for the rumors of the Destiny Infinite to happen. Okay, so it was like going to, supposedly there was some other code names for it. Like people get the API or data mine for it. So however they do that is insane to me. But there was like a Legends or a Destiny Infinite, or Destiny 3 as we know it, was gonna be kind of the next installment. Um, that's all we want. Like where it's at now, and everything that we did get was freaking amazing, and it just showed us like it was possible. This is what it could be, because it came out. It's not even that buggy for Bungie, to be honest. There was a couple broken like items that were like game breaking, but they patched it, and then here came the layoffs. So there's a couple more things in there that they may do that. But I mean, I think it's possible. They didn't lay off everybody. So again, a lot of hopium, but if I got it my way and like I was on the board, I'm like, keep the game that got us here going. It's sitting at 11 in Steam. Like there's no reason not to. So yeah, I mean, keep the story going. And I'll leave you with this, so I'm not too long winded about it. But there was a definite continuation planned beyond the last DLC for years. These were the developers and the main like narrative leads saying, we have this down and we have the ideas and know where this is going for the next several years. So there at that time, maybe I have to go back and look at when that last Vidoc or announcement was, that they do their little interviews at Bungie, when the new DLC comes out. But they were definitely like looking years, not just like the next year. They were looking very far ahead. They were not looking for Destiny end in any means necessary. They were looking at, well, how can we bring this in? How can we keep evolving the game and putting more in, and taking it to the RuneScape and WoW level? Like it really
Yeah,
can.
so
It really can.
their roadmap really just came to an end. Hit a
abruptly.
dead end. Yeah, abrupt end.
Yeah, and not lack of ideas, or like the game came to like its end. It's like I love God of War, but God of War is really stretching now. Right? There's nowhere else to go. There's like seems like they're just making up mythology now just to make the game go longer. And honestly, it was fine. It had its run. It was like, cool, you're done. But Destiny is an infinite universe, and there's still other things to do, and there's so much like things that they set up to knock down later and like way down later down the road. So I mean, they had big plans. It's just one of
Yeah.
those like, again, like your favorite TV show that you never want to end. That doesn't necessarily happen. Like, I don't know. It's more like One Piece if anybody knows that. It's like over a
Yeah.
1,000 episodes, right? Like, and
Yeah.
that's still going. So,
Yeah.
very possible, very hopeful. Destiny Infinite, or because I don't think D3 would be great. I think you just call it Destiny Infinite and be done with it, and just keep its true live service, right? So,
Yeah. Okay. All right. You heard it here first. Destiny Infinite coming
yeah,
out in 2035.
yeah, probably.
If Bungie's still around.
Yeah, if I hit the lottery and I can buy Bungie.
Oh yeah, hire me.
Yeah. Was that? It was. I don't know. Parsons got away with a lot. We need to do like opening bids like 2 billion or something. So we got to get there.
Yeah. We'll save up. We'll start saving. All right, Josh. Thanks for joining. I appreciate your passion on Destiny. I was praying for you when I first saw it was ending.
Yeah,
I wanted to make sure you're still around
yeah. No, honestly,
after
it's
that.
it's a blast, and thanks for having
Good.
me back. This was good to catch up.
Yeah, man. All right, we're out. Later.